Thank you. It's been moved by Natalie. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lori. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda has been approved. Next up is the student board discussion. Annalise, you want to go first?
All right, so I guess the biggest one we want to talk about, it was, oh, goodness, I'm bad with dates. I think ours was the 15th. We held our first in a while homecoming, which we were all super excited about. It was a big success. Overall, the Spirit Week in Peninsula, at first, coming back into school, everyone was a little bit weary, going into the Spirit Weeks, but the Sunday before the week of Spirit Week, we had such an attendance to set up the walls. All the classes just came together and spent the whole 10 to 3, 5 hours working on their walls. I know in the last 5 minutes, was sprinting between the commons and my leadership teacher's class just to get the last things on, because we just wanted these walls to look so good and present to the school and just show how excited we were to be back and how grateful we were. And that was super cool. And everyone was so into the Spirit Weeks. We had some great themes. We came up with an idea where we would do 2 things. So you would choose one. One time we did dress in all black versus neon colors. We did, let me think. We had on Friday, we always have Peninsula Spirit Day and just super fun things like that. We love to get creative with it. The Hoko dance was, of course, a success. We had those slots. David Takahara and Avery Demain really came through with that schedule, and they spent hours on end just putting together the schedule and presenting it and getting it approved. And we're all just, as a student body and as a leadership class, super proud of them. And I just wanted to highlight all the work they did. And we all had fun. The students were super, super great. And they all just, kept their distance, and we had fun. The DJ was great. And I guess that's just what I wanted to highlight the most.
In the past month, Gig Harbor High School has also had their homecoming dance, and it was also a great success. It is almost every year, I feel like. We also had time slots, and within the second day of selling tickets, all the time slots were filled. So then we had to open up more spots. And our staff did an amazing job figuring out the time slots and the capacity limit and selling tickets and all that. And our leadership team, we worked super hard. I was there for many, many hours. We worked hard. It looked amazing. We were able to save a couple $100s on our budget, and we hope to put that money that we spent towards the senior prom, because we have not a lot of money because of COVID. So we haven't been able to fundraise. But it was a really great success, and everyone came together to have a great time after all of these events that have been happening in the past. And where there may have been not a lot of social distancing, it turned out really great, and I was very pleased with the behavior of our student body at the dance.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Since both of you guys are associated with ASB as well at your schools, how are the fundraisers? I think the dances were good fundraisers for ASB, because I know that ASB has been hurting with raising funds in the past year. Are you guys recovering in your fundraising?
Okay, perfect. Actually, there's always going to be that hard deficit and the lack of money, but I think as each singular club and sport and as a student body, our creative ways to come up with new fundraisers, especially Mr. Miranda, the other leadership teacher, he put together these scarves. The soccer team, the soccer girls sold scarves, and they had Peninsula decked out. If you've ever seen a Sounders scarf, go Sounders, you always see that. And he made plenty of money for his class of 2025 is really coming through with that. We've made stickers, beads. We're just really trying to come up with creative ways that are safe and can be approved. And overall, it's tough, but I think we're recovering quite nicely.
Gig Harbor High School has many plans. We are very, very excited for Tidefest this year. There are many, many people reaching out to us about wanting to be a vendor there. And if you don't know what Tidefest is, it's a local arts community fundraiser that's held at Gig Harbor High School, and vendors can, they have to get pre-approved, but they can set up their booth and they sell, and there's food and art, and people buy a lot of gifts for Christmas and holidays because it's in December. And we have many, many ideas for fundraising, so we are hoping to bounce back and be able to do the things that we want to do.
Do you guys have your dates for Winterfest and Tidefest? Yeah.
Tidefest is the first weekend of December, I believe.
Thank you.
Our Winterfest is the weekend of Thanksgiving, so like right after. Yeah, ours is coming up very soon. Actually, thankfully you mentioned that. We've all, as a class, been coming together, and all the clubs have been getting their wreaths, coming up with decorations. We also have vendors that are already reaching out, and we're very excited for Winterfest because that has always, I'm not sure on Tidefest, but I'm pretty sure it's been our biggest source of, just getting money to our classes and stuff. So we're all very excited for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is comments from the community. The board recognizes the value of public comment on issues related to district business. In order to permit fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board provides time for public comment during each regular monthly board business meeting. Speakers will be given up to 3 minutes or less, depending on the number of registered speakers. As a matter of practice, the board will not respond to comments or engage in dialogue at the meeting. Most issues require that the board review all available information before making a statement. The president may request the superintendent delegate the response to the appropriate PSD staff member. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation. Board Policy 1430 states in part, the president may exercise discretion to interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Speakers, please state your first and last name when you reach the podium, and please don't remove your face covering. We can hear you fine with the microphone. First up, we have Diane Nelson.
Hello, my name is Diane Nelson, and first I just want to thank you for letting parents come and speak to you. I greatly appreciate that. I'm coming here tonight as a retired teacher and as a grandma that has 3 grandchildren in this school district. And we just are retired. My husband and I both retired, and we moved here just a year ago. And as a retired teacher, I have such a heart for both public and private education and children and teachers. So I'm here tonight to speak in something in behalf that's really troubling to me. I'm following a lot of stuff on the news, and I'm hearing about these mandates that are expected to come down for children to be vaccinated against COVID. And I've really studied this a lot and done a lot of research, and I just have some really grave concerns about this. And I'm here to ask you to please stand up against those mandates and say no. The Eatonville School District has already said no. They will not mandate vaccines for their children. And I want to ask you to please do that for the safety of our children. And I know I don't have a lot of time, so just a few facts I want to share. I wrote them out because I can read rather than speak. If I speak, I take too long. So the most important reason why we do not need a COVID vaccine mandate for our children is because our children have a minuscule risk of dying from COVID. The CDC has posted on their website that the total number of children that have died in 2020 and 21 from COVID is 415. Now, of course, we don't want any children dying, but more than double that amount have already died from influenza, and there's no mandated vaccine against influenza. Also, when we consider those facts, we need to consider the number of children that have died from the COVID vaccine or have permanent health impairment because of it. And there have actually been 15 children that have died of myocarditis from the COVID shot, and there have been 400 more that have had such inflammation in their heart that has left scars, and they're going to permanently be affected of that from their health. So you balance out those two numbers, and you see there's no benefit for the vaccine. Also, I just want to give some history even of vaccines. And I did not know this until I really looked into it. And I am for childhood vaccines. I want to make that very clear. All of the measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, all those, I am for those. But there have been longitudinal studies that have proven the safety and effectiveness of those. And if you go back though and study about the vaccines, when all of those were, was my 3 minutes up already? Oh, I only got through 1 of 3 points. Oh, bummer. Okay, I'll come back next month and finish. Well, I kept practicing this at home and couldn't get it fast enough, so I deleted stuff. So I'm going to come back next month.
Yeah. There you go.
Michelle Hambley. I will remind members of the audience, please wear your mask. I hate to adjourn the meeting for anyone not wearing their mask. Michelle?
I'm going to try and do this in 3 minutes, but I'm really emotional. First, thank you to those that up there that have been compassionate to me. I just want to say that first before I get into this. Okay, I'm ready. I've come here for, I believe, 6 months and shared the struggles of my son, who we almost lost to suicide last year during the lockdowns, remote learning. Now we are back in school, which is great. However, don't dare say anything negative. Be grateful, suck it up. It doesn't matter that there is a bucket in your car because your son vomits every day before school. So the bus is out of question, but that's okay. We can drive him every day from the KP so he can get out of the car, grab his backpack, grab his water bottle, put his mask on, pull it back down, and vomit into the bucket you brought in front of the school, and then decide if he can push through the anxiety to go to school because he wants to be there with his friends. Shh, don't talk about that. The kids are back in school. It's a mandate. Suck it up. 455 school-aged children out of 51 million of that same age group have died from COVID. They matter, but that's 22 months. Most with comorbidities that weren't even in public schools, but shh, that doesn't matter. They need to be masked to save someone else's grandma, uncle, brother, aunt. Makes sense. Children should be responsible for the adults going to NFL games, college games. Oh, don't forget Fishbowl, out to dinners, family gatherings, and many other places without masks. Don't worry, the kids got you. They will wear a mask from the bus in the morning, all through school, bus home for 7 hours with asthma, anxiety, PTSD. No worries, they got us adults protected. My son's story should bring about compassion. Instead, it's been ignored or met with disdain by one board member, exploited in the newspaper, and used by a board member, community members, and a candidate for school board to paint myself and other well-meaning, concerned parents as contentious and aggressive, stating that we are, I can't do this ever without shaking, that we are the ones that need to change, not some of the board, or maybe looking at how they can make us change to support these children that are not thriving in this environment. Last night was the first time I received a call from anybody offering help for my son after coming here for 6 months. Somebody named John. It was the wrong son, wrong school, but that's okay. It was still, thank you, John, for giving me a damn. It's not anti-mask. It's we are human beings, not all the same, especially kids. More than my child and others, I've spoken to hundreds of moms and dads whose children have similar stories. Some are on here. Most have pulled their children from the districts. Mandates are not the law. The board should be talking to the health department. We're pushing back, making procedures, policies, doing something to help the children that don't fit in the box. I know there are board members that want to help and care. I'm hoping that with the board member leaving, that has made it clear she does not care about my son or others because it's a mandate. Maybe help is on the way. However, I fear for the possibility of candidates that could come in and support the continued blanket mandates to continue forcing our children to wear masks when they're in mental health crises. I will say it again, Tacoma News Tribune, that scum that exploited my son quoted me wrong. I'm immunocompromised, immunosuppressants, I take oral chemo, I'm obese. I'm the second highest risk factor for COVID. It's not your children's, my children, or any children's duty to protect me or anyone else. This community will have a suicide on its hands if we don't do something.
Thank you.
Please bring the smiles back. Please do something. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I've asked nicely. One of the things I'd like to say is that our school board is a school board where we listen to community voice and parent voice, and we don't always agree on everything you have to say. But as elected officials, that's what we're here to do, is listen to our community members. Unfortunately, we are bound to uphold the emergency mandate for enforcement of masks in the school board meetings and within our buildings, especially the fact that we have high school students in the room. And if you do not want me to have to adjourn the board meeting and move to a virtual meeting, I'm asking everyone to wear a mask. And this is the last time I'm going to ask.
May I say something?
No.
No.
You're going to force me to adjourn the meeting. So I'm going to leave it to the community to.
We don't want to wear a mask either. We are against masks too, but we don't want to adjourn.
They've never even proven that this disease exists.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's the vaccine.
Thank you.
Vaccines that are given to
Thank you. Thank you.
making them have heart problems.
Thank you. Please don't force me to adjourn the meeting.
I don't have to wear a mask.
Thank
know
you.
that, and neither do you. You all know it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Teresa, I'm sorry, Dupay? Dupay, Teresa Dupay.
Hi, my name is Teresa Dupay. I wanted to ask a few questions of the board and also express my support for the petition that was started by Sarah Garriott against the comprehensive sex ed curriculum that's being taught in the schools. But first, I wanted to say, my questions were about the whether this school board has written a statement or any posted disagreement to the National School Board Association calling parents domestic terrorists, and if not, why haven't you? And my other question is, did this district accept funds from the American Relief, Response Relief, I'm sorry, I have to remember the name of it, how is it worded? American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And, but my statement in support of the comprehensive sex ed is to remind you that we as parents elected you to protect our children. And we believed that you would have our children's best interest at heart. It doesn't appear that way when all of you decided that they would continue with the status quo of the mandatory comprehensive sexual education of our children, which is starting in kindergarten, I believe. And children are not sexual unless some. Oh. Children are not sexual or sexualized unless another adult or some influential person makes them that way. I don't think it's necessary to teach children starting in kindergarten about these topics. They're really not appropriate in the school. And it would be great if you supported the community and only had it in the health class, as we requested, which we had documentation to support why we felt that way. We had a lot of community out supporting us. We had signatures. So I would like you to reconsider your decision on that. basically, that would be all of what I wanted to say. So, thank you.
Sarah Garriott.
Good evening again. On the eve of the election for which some of you are running, I am here representing several thousand community members regarding the Honor the Vote petition we presented to the board 5 long months ago. Here is an executive summary as I see it. 1, a legal certified vote of the people in November of 2020 clearly showed that an overwhelming majority of the people here in Gig Harbor voted to reject the sex ed legislation. 2, a petition was brought to the board, physically signed by 611 community members, requesting, among other things, strict boundaries be put around sex ed. 3, the board passed a resolution, a status quo resolution, in July without prior public comment, ignoring the voice of the people. 4, a meeting was held in August with the superintendent and other PSD administrators, myself, and another parent to discuss our concerns. 5, I sent follow-up questions asking when the boundaries we requested would be implemented. A month later, Melissa Weisner sent 1-sentence responses to my questions, stating that with parent notification, she would be working with schools. Some of the questions, the policies we wish to implement, she had no plan to implement. And around integration into other subject matters not being wished, she said that she would work on policy with the union on that. To be clear, the union does not represent the voice of the majority or the people. We do not believe they should have any involvement in carrying out this request. In summary, on the eve of the election and fully 5 months after bringing you this request, we the people do not feel heard or represented. Your inaction on this matter is baffling. We again direct you, the board, now to direct Superintendent Barr to immediately direct our administration to honor the vote and put strong boundaries around sexuality education in this district and honor the request brought to you in the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Marilyn Soleil.
Thank you.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Sol.
Thank you.
I'm going to be proactive and talk about COVID-19 vaccines for children. The information I will present comes from reputable sources, and I've verified most of it myself. My background is a PhD molecular biosciences researcher, and my 6 years as a former PSD teacher, hundreds of my former students are still in school here, are what compel me to share with you what I've learned about these investigational biologics. Firstly, all of these vaccines are still investigational and all instruct your body to make viral spike protein, which is itself a deadly protein. It causes cell, tissue, and organ endothelial damage and more. It circulates in your body fluids and is present in donated blood. There are concerning studies showing that spike protein accumulates in the ovaries and causes reduced fertility in both sexes. These vaccines cause myocarditis and pericarditis, and young men are at particularly high risk of these adverse effects. If these reactions are severe, they are irreversible. There's been no effort to restrict vaccination according to risk for COVID-19 hospitalization or death, or to exempt those who have natural immunity. An estimated 50% or more of children are already naturally immune. Natural immunity is robust, diverse, and long-lasting compared to that produced by vaccination. As with natural infection, the body sees the whole virus, not just the spike protein. As soon as the spike protein mutates, as it did in the Delta strain, vaccine-mediated immunity is reduced. In fact, a very recent study published October 25th showed that vaccine-induced antibodies are completely ineffective against a new emerging virus strain. Multiple new studies show that vaccinated and unvaccinated people have equivalent viral loads of the newer virus strains. Children are at very low risk of COVID-19 with mild symptoms and relatively few deaths. From January 1st to October 23rd, from January 20 January 1st, 2020 to October 23rd, 2021, or basically the entire COVID pandemic, the total number of children in the United States aged 17 and younger who died from all causes was 60,066. Of those, 558 died with COVID, not even necessarily from COVID. That's 0.93%, less than 1% of all deaths in children. In fact, data shows that in children, the risk of hospitalization for myocarditis from the vaccine is higher than the risk of hospitalization for COVID-19 if unvaccinated. The FDA Advisory Committee, which just met 2 days ago, approved the pediatric Pfizer vaccine for emergency use authorization, but they expressed concerns that it should only be given to children at high risk from COVID-19 and should not be mandated. I urge the school board to oppose any efforts to mandate vaccination of children in our schools. You may be only a few people, but you are responsible for ensuring the safety of thousands of children. Please do your homework and stand strong for our community's children.
Thank you, Marilyn. So that ends our community comment for the evening. We now move into item 7, district reports. First up, we have 7.1, elementary school report by John Helwich.
Thank you. It's my honor tonight to be able to give a report on where we are so far in the fall in elementary. And I want to start with celebrations. After a year and a third in fully remote, hybrid, partial day, and four-day-a-week schedules, we need to celebrate the fact that we have 3,600 students back on campus, 5 days a week, full days. And we also have 80 students who chose to stay virtual in our Global Virtual Academy. Those students are taught by teachers from Stride Ed, but we also have PSD teachers, one from primary and one from intermediate, that connect with the students regularly and help to support them. So we still have that connection to those students that chose that. Next slide. So how's it going with 3,600 kids on campus 5 days a week? One thing about it is it's been going very well and it's been safe. You can check on our dashboard, but we've only had 4 cases of transmission at school in 7 weeks with 4,100 total individuals on campus every day. And those 4 are determined by the health department. That's a great testament to our staff for their following of the protocols, for their teaching of the protocols, and for our students following those. Our parents should feel safe about in-person learning. The protocols do require masking and distancing, among other measures, but students are adjusting and are having most of the familiar types of experiences that they had pre-pandemic. Next. Of course, we want to celebrate our new facilities and how critical those have been at this time. Of course, the building that we're in, the beautiful Swiftwater Elementary, and Patrick will talk about their ribbon cutting coming up soon. Our rebuilt school, Evergreen Elementary out in Lake Bay. This is the first fall opening for Pioneer Elementary, and we'll also hear from Patrick about an upcoming new building that's going to be opening over in Artendale. And it shouldn't be lost in this how important it is that these new facilities came on board at this time. We know that the physical distancing issue is very difficult to meet now, but when we go back to the types of crowding that we had prior to that, before the bond was passed, with over 600 students in most of our Gig Harbor side elementaries, it would have been darn near impossible. I want to celebrate too how our schools and our teachers and our administrators are trying to capitalize on these new facilities and help kids learn through it. Artendale created this design challenge, Design Your Ideal New School. If I Built a School was the name of the project. And students embraced it, and this is a way that students can figure out, how do these new facilities really impact my learning? And if you go into Artendale, you can see in their display cases the various ways that kids tried to make those displays. You can see in some of those pictures, although they're small. We did have a video, but fortunately it's not going to play, but it's a wonderful young man named Lucas, who was describing his school that he designed, which he called Jurassic University. And it had, one of the big features of it was a bedroom for the janitor. And so as these kids at Artendale watch this new building going up on the other side of their campus, they understand how it really impacts them as students. And when they get to walk over to that new building, it's going to be really exciting. So while I did mention that students are going back to most of the activities that they're familiar with, I don't want that to be taken as things are back to normal. They're not back to normal. It's been a very difficult year for staff at every level and every position. You've heard about some of the staffing issues with unfilled positions, substitute shortages, transportation shortages for drivers, and all of that is putting a lot of strain on the system. So I am going to talk a little bit about some new programs and some new curriculum, but that's not our top focus right now. We have students in the primary grades who haven't had a lot of time to be spent on campus being taught behaviors. We've had kids who have had additional trauma, and those students need help with self-regulation. So giving each kid what they need, those are really our top priorities. So it's about recalibrating expectations, giving ourselves and others grace, and taking each kid where they're at. One of the initiatives that we've been doing for several years that really helps in this manner is multi-tiered systems of support. And what that basically means is whether we're talking about behavior, or we're talking about academics, we give every kid solid core instruction, but we also plan that we know students are in different places, and we provide interventions and extensions for kids that need them, for both behavior and for academic. And this has been, again, this isn't new. We've been working on this for many years. We are continuing to build on our social emotional work with students. That includes lessons from our second step curriculum, which includes things like respecting others, compassion, mindfulness, just to name a few. This goes along with spending a lot of time just teaching specific behaviors, routines in the classroom, in transitions, on the playground, and everywhere. So, to talk a little bit about MTSS literacy, that's been a bigger focus this year. We are really trying to emphasize a 90-minute literacy block for all students. So that's no matter where the student is, whether they have an IEP or whether they don't, 90 minutes so everyone's getting that critical core instruction. But then we call it 90-minute plus. Then we have a plus is that intervention time where if students need extra time and support, they get it. And if they're ready for extensions, they can get those as well. One of the pieces that we added to this year, and it is tied to some of the new literacy and dyslexia legislation, is called Enhanced Core Reading Instruction, or ECRI. This is work that is continuation of work that we started in 2021 around the science of reading. ECRI's instruction is focused on the foundations of reading, phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics and fluency reading text. Phonological and phonemic awareness addresses sounds and spoken words, and a child's understanding that spoken words are made up of a collection of sounds. If a kid can read fluently, it's easier for them to understand their reading, so that fluency is connected to their comprehension. They are evidence-based reading strategies. Research shows that they're effective for teaching kindergarten through second grade students, and ECRI allows all students to have high-quality reading instruction. Recent changes to state law requires students screen into kindergarten through second grade for early indications of dyslexia and provide evidence-based instruction and intervention. While this screener doesn't diagnose students with dyslexia, ECRI strategies are a key part to make sure that all kids are supported in the classroom. If students are getting that instruction and then they struggle, well, then there's still other screeners and assessments we can do and then provide additional interventions at that time. Our K through 2 teachers, resource teachers, Title and LAP all received day 1 training before school started and are in the process of getting their second day of training. Now I'm going to turn to STEM. A new STEM curriculum was adopted last January, and that's called STEM Scopes. Over the summer, K-5 teachers received 9 hours of training on STEM scopes in 4 different training sessions. Kits have been delivered to the schools, and so just now our teachers are starting to get kind of acclimated into those teaching of our STEM scopes units. Research tells us that any implementation takes 3 to 5 years. So this is our first year, and we're going to provide teachers with the support they need, and again, giving them grace as we make sure that we pace this implementation in a way that is doable and works for kids and for staff. So finally, just that idea of right now, being one of the most difficult years for many of our teachers, that just grace and making sure that we're focusing on relationships, taking care of each other, and helping every kid get what they need is really at the top of our priority list.
Thank you, John. Any question? Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, John. I have a question. If you could just go back, you mentioned that we're doing dyslexia screening but not diagnosing. Is that something that's new that we're doing?
Okay, right now it's the World Series is going on. Have you seen that? And when the pitcher gets tired, they go and they get the relief pitcher.
Okay, bring up the relief pitcher. Got it.
Get the right-handed relief pitcher. John, he knows a little bit more about this curriculum than I do.
Thank you.
I was like, where are we going with that?
Call him in a friend.
Wait, what was your sign? I need the relief sign so that I can, okay.
I think he's right now. Okay, there you go.
Good evening.
Hi, thanks, John.
Hi. So could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, what I heard was that we are doing between 1st and 3rd grade dyslexia screening, but not diagnosing. So if you could share, I thought that was new, that we weren't doing that before.
Yeah, well, there's some new legislation that went into effect this school year, like John said. So we're not diagnosing dyslexia. We do a screener for kids, actually K through 5. The legislation requires K through 2. It's called DIBBLES, so it's a reading screening tool.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually been doing that for several years, but the requirement went into effect this year. So it's not a diagnostic tool, it's just a reading screening tool.
Okay, and then from that, are there indicators that we could maybe refer students? So if they're alerting that maybe this is something going on with them, how are we working with parents to get that diagnosed and interventions in place?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The screener does assess various areas of literacy, early literacy, like John alluded to, and based on that data, instruction and interventions are designed. So a student could be at benchmark, everything's great, the student could need some intensive intervention or strategic intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So based on the data that's gathered, interventions are discussed, like John said. It could be an enrichment piece too if a student is scoring at benchmark. And those conversations are occurring at conferences as we speak.
Okay.
For those students that have been screened, information is being shared. And if a student doesn't respond to the interventions that we put in place, that could cause us to want to investigate a little bit more thoroughly and do some additional testing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
An extension of that, you're testing K through 5, which is, do you find that we're missing kids in K 1, 2, 3, and then finally discovering it in 5, or does it develop over time, dyslexia or any of the, like, why are we doing K through 5 testing?
We've done that for as long as I've been in the district in terms of just gathering that information, because there can be a lot of different reasons that students are behind in reading. It might not necessarily be due to dyslexia. So doing the testing, gathering the data can then help inform how we provide instruction.
Yeah.
If over time we see that students don't respond to some of the interventions that we've had in place, and that could be 2nd or 3rd grade, or earlier depending on the student, then we can do some deeper diagnostic testing, which then help.
Okay, I was just wondering if we're still testing in 4 and 5, which I think is great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Are we missing something earlier? Should we be doing some different type of testing earlier? Because if we're not catching anything till 5th grade, that's a lot of.
Yeah, the screener is built for K5 or K6 maybe, and we do additional testing in addition to that, like iReady does a lot, does screens for reading, it screens for math. It's a similar type of tool.
Okay.
So I don't think it's necessarily that we're missing students. It's just we have students that move around, new students that come into the system, and it's an easy, quick benchmark type assessment that is kind of a dipstick just to see how students are performing in their reading skills.
Good. And then, go ahead. ECRI? ECRI?
Mm-hmm.
Is that at all grades we're doing that, or where is ECRI hit?
No,
didn't
that's,
hear
that professional learning has been provided K through 2.
K through 2.
It's really based on that early
Excellent.
literacy, research-based, scientific-based reading intervention. So it's not a curriculum as much as it is reading strategies. We haven't replaced Reading Wonders. It's just a supplement to that to really help
Good.
explicitly teach those early literacy skills.
Well, I thank you guys for the extra efforts with our readers, because reading is in everything. And if they're losing that or they don't have those skills, they're going to be challenged throughout the system. So thank you guys for putting that forth.
Okay, before you leave now. So I might recommend to the board that if you would like to have student services do a whole study session on all of the inclusionary practices with examples, and much like we did our last study session where we had AVID and you actually got to sit with groups of people and learn, I think that that would be a great, aren't you happy that you came up?
Yeah.
Aren't you? Because we had already briefly talked about it, that I think that that would be really, really interesting as a study session, and then you could actually learn. I think it's great to see it on a slide, but it's really important to be able to see what our children are doing. And by then we will have some more data in November and then into December. So I think that would be a great study session if you would be willing to do that, or if you would like it. So you could make that request.
Can you elaborate just for those that weren't at the study session? Just tell them how that worked.
Right. So a style that I am bringing to Peninsula is more of an interactive study session where it's not just a sit and get, where you're listening to the slides. So the last study session that we held was in a gym, and we had multiple tables, and our students got to be there. You could even talk about that later, and learn about AVID. And so it was more like a progressive dinner almost, where you spent about 8 to 10 minutes in each group, and then the board members were able to ask questions, and we had a couple people from the audience, and they were also able to, as you know, as distance allows us to be able to learn. It's a night of learning. A study session should be a time where we're studying and we're learning as much as we can, and you have an opportunity to ask questions. So it's interactive, and best practices for school districts really involve the board in learning as much as they can. So thanks.
So are we going to ask that we do that? Because that's a great idea. Yeah? Can we add, John, to that, to have the, if possible, some parents there? Because I'd like to understand the parent interaction with the school when a child has identified with some issues, and what the parent's role in all of that is as well. So if we have some willing parents, that'd be amazing to
Yeah, I
hear
think
that
it'd be
from
great to
them.
have some parents and students also. That'd be
Yes.
awesome. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
There we go. Okay. So this may be more for that study session type stuff that you're talking about, but so this report is on new programs, and out at Evergreen we kind of have a little bit of a STEM program going on. Is there any advancements with the new school? Are we growing that program?
We do have STEM education in every school, and in Evergreen, they are going to be applying for a grant and are going to be looking to extend some of those STEM opportunities, especially involved with their environment and the surrounding area, which has been a focus for Evergreen for several years.
Right.
So yeah, that is and each school may do that. They may have something that they want to enhance a little bit and do a little bit of deeper dive into.
Okay.
We've heard, you saw the Pioneer STEM grant, and so
Right.
there are some opportunities for schools that are interested to take a little different twist on some of these, but we do have STEM education for every student in every school.
Okay. I know that the enrollment in Pioneer, our only real STEM school, is low for the kids out in the KP. And from what I'm hearing, it's from the distance. Nobody wants to put their kid on a bus for an hour and a half to go to Pioneer. And so my understanding was we were going to work towards making a STEM school on the Key Peninsula.
And I think that's the direction Evergreen's heading, yes.
Okay.
So, and I'd like to add that John and I have been working with the principals,
Okay.
all 10 of them, about visioning and thinking about their community and what they would like to do, all the way from elementary avid, which would make someone excited about that, starting at an elementary and then a vertical articulation to, so I'm going to counter and say Pioneer was named as a STEAM school. However, there are many plans. We don't, we have some
Right.
things in store, and what we don't want to do is overpromise.
Right.
But I do want to say that the principals have been amazing, and they have some amazing ideas and wonderful things for children. We do have maker spaces in our new schools.
Right.
But STEM education and STEAM education is more than just a classroom. It's really going out of the brick and mortar, outdoor education, accessing nature, all of those things. And so there are great plans in store, but we're 2 months into it, and I'm very, very impressed with the professionalism and the ability for our principals to think out of the box. So, and John's leadership in that. Thank you.
And we are aware that providing that opportunity on the Key would be really important.
Yeah. Yep, vital. Okay, I'll leave it at that, and then hopefully at a study session, we can build on some more of this, and I've got questions on project-based learning, but I think I'd learn more.
For
our
that.
study session. Okay.
Quick follow-up on Deb's question on the screener. The Dibble screener is a collection of screeners, and in the primary grades, we give things like letter sounds and letter names and nonsense word fluency, but when they get to 4th and 5th grade, we want them all to be readers by that time, so they take an oral reading screener, and that's more about comprehension.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Item 7.2 is we have an update on the annual school improvement. Oh, sorry, we removed that. Thank you. Sorry. 7.3, we have a middle school capital projects update from our Director of Capital Projects, Patrick Gillespie.
Thank you. A little wet out there today, in case anybody was wondering or missed it. This is the cleaned up version of me from today, which isn't much better. I'm going to start on a couple things with the middle schools. They're very similar projects because they're very similar schools. So I'm going to kind of start with some things that are similar, then I'll break it down to the individual schools themselves a little bit. Let's see. Lots happened since probably the last time we've done an update. The contractor laydown areas have been installed with ATB, which is an asphalt treated base. Temporary walls have been built on the interior to separate school students, staff from construction activities. 2 new classrooms were created. Currently, they are temporary. They have temporary carpet and finishes, which was expected to be ready. We expect it to be that way for the first day of school to have those classrooms ready. And then we will get the final finishes in at a later phase. Let's see, site prep for water towers at both sites is being done. Underground utilities are being installed, including storm lines, septic lines, electrical. Had a little mishap out at KPMS, Penlight. Shout out to them. They were out there in a hurry. They did a great job getting our power back on, so thanks to Penlight. KPMS, kind of some specific things there. Admin and 4 classroom addition footings have been formed and are being prepped for concrete. With the rain, it's going to take a little bit longer, but they're getting those ready to go. 8 classrooms in the B wing have been demoed to make way for new electrical, HVAC, duct, plumbing. Building permanent walls where old operable walls used to be. Storm ponds have been expanded. So it's pretty exciting to go out there and see that school torn apart, as well as Kopachuk. Out at Kopachuk, the admin area and 2 classroom addition footings were formed and concrete has been poured. And they're prepping for the concrete slabs in those areas that, again, weather permitting, they'll get those poured. Temporary bus and car loop has been installed. Thank you to all the parents and bus drivers that figured that out. First day was kind of fun. Once they kind of learned it, I think things have been going much better out there. Retaining wall for expanded fire lane on back of the building has been completed. Sorry, these got wet on the way out, so it's been that day. 7 classrooms in the 200 section have been demoed to make way for new electrical, HVAC, ductwork, plumbing, building, permanent walls where old operable walls were. So I know that the middle schools are super excited to get rid of those operable walls, especially KPMS. They've been asking me for years. So I'm excited to see actual real walls in there now. Swiftwater, on the 21st of this month, we had a great ribbon cutting. Thank you all for being there. It was a great turnout. It was really exciting for me to see that, see the kids and the parents in the building. It was really heartwarming to see all the signs that the students made for the contractor, our project managers. They had one for me too, so I appreciated that. Thanks to those. I think they were 4th graders. If they were 5th grade, I apologize. Maybe it was 5th was holding it, 4th made it. Anyway, we appreciate it. Thank you. I tried to remember. Evergreen ribbon cutting date is going to be the 8th of November. Obviously we have kids in that school now. They are finishing up the phase 2 part, which is demoing the old school, which has been gone now for quite a while. Bus loop was finished paved earlier this week. We hope to have it striped, but again, it's a weather dependent thing. Right now, if we get it paved, it'll be next week. If we get it striped, it'll be next week, which will allow our buses to use the bus loop and that school start functioning more how we intended it when it's complete. And then they're obviously finishing up all the other stuff with the old gym and getting that ready and all the site work over there. So it'll be a few more months before all that stuff's done. And then Artendale, we're working really hard to get that building open this month. Things are looking good, but, it is very nerve-wracking, as they all have been, to get through. So every day it's looking better and better. It's getting really close. I'm super excited. And I know that everybody's working really hard over there. So it's just going to come down to getting our occupancy permits. Once we have those, we've got our timeline set up for moving. Staff's aware of them. So we're really excited and hope to hit all those dates coming up.
Hey, Patrick, when you say this month, you mean November?
I'm sorry, is it?
Okay.
What month are we in?
That'll be tomorrow.
Did I even know what day it is anymore? Is it, when I mean this month, I mean November, which is next month. Thank you. Because this month would be really difficult.
Yeah.
Thank you. Exciting things are happening. Furniture showed up this week. More's coming tomorrow, Friday. The Promethean boards are showing up, I believe, tomorrow as well. And then just kind of a fun one too, with the kids have been great with the signs here. We had John showed what the kids did with what they will school like, which is kind of fun to go look at some of that. But there is just a little heartwarming stories. One of the kids, a 5th grader, read a letter to all the construction workers, and it is on the front doors for all of them to see. And it's getting a little worn out, but it's taped up there and you can read it. And it just says, thank you for what you do. And, you chose to do this and we appreciate it. So kind of paraphrasing, it's a little longer than that. They did a really nice job. So just really good things happening out there. Contractor cares. They're working really hard for those kids, as all of our contractors have. So that's kind of the quick update on what's going on with all the stuff out there. Any questions?
I was going to say, first off, thanks for the update on all the schools and the middle schools. And we certainly appreciate the photos that we get on the updates. It's really nice to see everything coming together from a high level like that. And can you just touch base a little bit on, I know this isn't really directly tied to the schools, but is anything being done simultaneously with that remaining gym that's going to be a future community center? Is anything being done to that at all?
Well, the gym's getting, so there wasn't, a lot of things have happened over, we decided to keep it, we thought it was good for the community, is getting a paint job, which will make it look more in line with the new school, which will be the spicy hue color, and clove something is the brown color, I can't remember, it's clove something. But we'll paint it that way. We did do a couple other we were taking up a little bit of flooring in one of the rooms, replacing that, and then it had it was a preschool, so it had this little teeny tiny toilet. So we're making it a little bit bigger so that most people can use it. It was really good for those kids. But we haven't dialed in, and I don't know it's a capital project, so I know there's plans for it. But it's not really dialed in to what any changes in the future would be like. I think it's kind of a blank slate. There's a lot of things to discuss, a lot of things to happen. I think that a lot of possibilities are there. It's just a matter of kind of having that discussion and saying, here's where we're headed, here's the players, and how it's going to work. So, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love the roadside path at Evergreen, that little pathway that's on the other side of the ditch.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to continue all the way down through the area right now where they've demoed the old building?
Yeah, it actually goes along the whole frontage of the whole property. It is a county requirement to basically put in basically a sidewalk. And so it'll go from one edge of our property to the other and don't really go anywhere because it's keeping Peninsula Highway. But it is a requirement. So yeah, we are putting it in. We opted to keep a couple trees because at the end the trees kind of got in the way, and so we're going to kind of 45 it back a little bit. But we feel that since it's not connecting really to anything else, that keeping the trees might be the better idea there.
Well, that was part of what we put in the community plan, was to have a roadside path that meandered around the trees. So
right. Okay.
You're right on track with what we envisioned. So. Yeah.
It's a little more straight shot than meandering with that, but it meanders a little at the end.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. As some of the budgets for the schools are wrapping up and we're finalizing project costs for the 4 elementary schools, are we looking at maintaining and keeping with the scope of the middle schools that we originally laid out?
Oh, yeah. No, we totally... what we budgeted for, we had alternates, as we kind of talked about on those bids. Mm-hmm. When the bids came in, we felt really comfortable taking, I think, almost every one of the alternates, maybe not one, but I think we took as many as we could, which was basically all of them. Mm-hmm. And we're feeling really good about that. And there should be plenty of money, there will be plenty of money to finish these projects. We designed them in a way to make sure we're looking at opportunities to make them better as we go through. If we find something and we think that there's value there. Mm-hmm. We've already made a couple of changes that have added value to those projects that cost money, and we're excited to add those as we move forward.
Good. We were extremely fortunate to do those 4 schools so quickly and ahead of schedule, and we bumped them up. And we avoided the supply chain issues and some of the labor shortages that we're seeing. Are you starting to see that as we are working on the middle schools?
So first of all, I just remind you only wanted 2 by this fall.
I know.
And you got 4.
I said ahead of, and
no, I know. I just wanted to.
Thank you. I'm the first one.
I was tooting my own horn, maybe
good.
just a little bit there. Yeah. And my departments and all the contractors, they've done a great job.
I was trying to compliment you.
I know. I know. I'm not good at compliments. Yes, we definitely got in front. Doing them faster really helped out a lot on so many levels. Had we not done them as fast as we had, I think we would have definitely ran into a few issues. We've built that into the middle school projects. Clearly, there's some new stuff that we weren't totally expecting, but we have good contractors. We're making some tweaks and changes here and there where we need to keep them on track. So we're doing what we can with those ones, but the world's different, and a lot of things keep changing on us, and we keep changing with it. But yes, doing them faster really kept us ahead of those curves on that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. No problem. Thank you. Have a great night. Yeah.
Okay, there is no old business this evening, so we'll move to new business. Superintendent Barr will discuss the WASDA Board of Distinction.
Yes, it is my pleasure to announce that Peninsula School District was awarded the WASDA Board of Distinction for 2021. That was last school year, not this school year, so the last school year. And I just wanted to share some information. In terms of closing opportunity gaps, the early recognition of the pandemic's impact on Peninsula School District students, furthest from educational justice, was a priority to directly address the opportunity gaps. So using data last year, To identify trends for access and connectivity, Peninsula School District Board directed the following strategies: the purchase of Chromebooks and hotspot partnerships with Red Barn Youth Center, Communities in Schools, and YMCA Camp Seymour on the Key Peninsula for connectivity and rural isolation early in the fall of 2020. In addition, there was an early outreach to Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department, the Gates Fund Mercado Cooperation, Washington Department of Health, and County Executive Bruce Danmeyer allowed Peninsula to be a leader in the COVID testing strategies last year. One of 3 districts recognized nationally as to their first use of testing as a strategy to keep students in safely as safely as possible during the fall of 2020. In addition, a lack of readily available vaccines were not evident. There was a lack in the Key Peninsula. The board authorized school-based health clinics during the school day at Evergreen and Vaughan Elementary and Key Peninsula Middle School, and authorized Communities in Schools to transport the students and guardians to the clinic site. And then data was reviewed that indicated specific trends over the OSPI Washington School Improvement Framework, that is what's online, directly impacting our most vulnerable populations. The data indicated that targeting the Key Peninsula schools, 4 of them, for additional EL assistance, also adding transitional kindergarten, expanding the ECAP programming, and the addition of parent outreach coordinator and para-support would impact the rural isolated schools. Schools on the Key Peninsula averaged 52% free and reduced lunch rate. They had limited access to high quality pre-K learning opportunities and have experienced an increase in the Hispanic population, which grew from 8.5% in 2018-19 to 15%, almost a double, in 2021. Student growth measures for that subgroup was 29 math SGP and 34 ELA for this population, which is the lowest growth factor in the district. So additionally, the board used this data to increase staffing and funding for additional support. And so with that, I just wanted to also add, in terms of meeting the standards, so the WASDA award it's a standard-based award. So if school districts feel that they have met the standards for that and they're listed, every year they're a little bit different, and then they can submit an application. So it's more of a standard-based, and then it's evidence-based. And so I just wanted to highlight that for Peninsula School Board. I know that this is the first time that you have been awarded this, but it was the work that you did last year. And so aligning it to the school board actually has standards. You can find them on the WASDA board website. And so I just want to congratulate you as a board of 5 and the hard work that you did last year in order to get kids in the door. And it's wonderful now that we're hearing the result in 21-22. That students, I mean, if you had asked probably you guys last year, this time, if you were going to have a prom in a year, you know, it probably would have been questionable. So they will be, this board will be awarded later in November at the statewide recognition ceremony. Thank you.
And then leading right into your superintendent report.
Alrighty. All right. It has been busy. And I'm so glad that you all stayed, so thank you. It has been a busy 2 months. So this is the end of my second month. This is end of second month of school, right? It seems like it's been longer, doesn't it? So I guess you're saying no. I'm thinking yes. Time slows down when you're old, I think. So I had an opportunity to be at the Pioneer at the ribbon cutting. That was simply amazing. Not the ribbon cutting, but the STEM Lighthouse Award. And on that evening, thank you for those of you that could attend, but we had students that were teaching us about coding and doing engineering work, and they're young students, and they had all the tools there, so that was simply amazing. I've had an opportunity to have some breakfast. It's called Breakfast with Bars. No, Breakfast with Bar. And we go, well, actually we do. We have like maple bars or cinnamon bars. So this week, and I get to go to one tomorrow, but I had the opportunity to be hosted at academies at Henderson Bay, at Voyager. Today was at KPMS, and Patrick, I have to tell you, it was raining so hard out there, and it was like mud slick, and I was just fascinated. They kept working. They were just working on through. Hard workers out there, and it's starting to really look different. And I know the staff will be excited when that's completed. So, and then Evergreen is tomorrow, and I heard that it's a half day, and my birthday is on Halloween, so I think they're dressing up. No, not for me. I think they're going to be dressing up out there, so I look forward to going out and seeing all the students out there. Also, we had the Swiftwater ribbon cutting, and that was simply amazing. It was very windy. It was right out here. I'm glad it wasn't tonight. But Heron's Key, many of the many of the citizens attended. I think did they bus them in here? In vans.
They have in a van.
They did. I didn't see that part, but they had an opportunity to intersect with. There were students and parents. It was really amazing. And then there was a tribal. The Puyallup tribe was here, and there was a blessing and a prayer. It was really an amazing event, and such a worthwhile evening. I'd like to thank Deb and Natalie for attending a Women in Leadership conference, talking about women leaders and the challenges and benefits and opportunities. So that was pretty amazing. And I really would like to thank our Navy JROTC students for being here. That was the inaugural. That was the first time ever. They did an amazing job. We were able, Natalie and I attended a pinning, was it last week? For the families. It was just amazing. So it's just an honor and a privilege to be able to see that. And then, as I said, we explored AVID. So looking forward to further conversations about that as a board and the direction on where you'd like to go. Couple things at the state level and politically. I did want to address, I know that WASDA, your board organization has not supported the NSBA letter. There has been a retraction, and I just want to say that this board is not part of NSBA. And does not, and you can certainly elaborate, but I had to lean forward and say that was not ever a conversation, nor is it an organization. And I really feel badly for the National School Board Association that they came out and did that. I don't think that was a collective conversation. I think it was just a small group. And I think that now politically they're having to retract what they had said. Because, I mean, the bottom line is we are a public entity and we are here for children. So we are looking at, the Pierce County superintendents have met multiple times, and I do want to make this public, that we are seeing throughout our educational system. And John did mention that about elementary, but this is across the board. Every school I have been at, there are committed educators, there are committed staff, at the office level, at the food service, bus drivers, but this is a really difficult year. This is different than last year. And the requirements of things that we must do is putting a strain and a stress on our staff. And so we are looking at doing a collective letter to the governor. It's not public yet, but I did want to say that we are hearing our staff. We are hearing our organizations. We need time to build relationships. This is all about relationships. We have students that are coming into our system that may not have been educated last year, especially our youngest students. So habits, routines, relationships matter, and we need to give permission to our educators to build those relationships, build those systems that work. And it is very difficult. Educators.
asking, are you hearing the parents? Just asking.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. This is a difficult year. And so just recognizing that in our systems, in the schools at this time, I just wanted to make that really public. So I have had the opportunity to listen to staff and will continue to do so. Absolutely.
But not parents.
Parents as well.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, we're all in this boat together. We are a Peninsula School District together. So thank you.
Next up, we have board discussion and comments. Lori, you want to go first?
I feel like I haven't said anything all night because all of my questions got asked just prior to when it was my turn. So thank you, everyone. I don't want to rehash because Superintendent Bard has touched on two things that I was really excited about, which were the Lieutenant Commander Hood and the Navy JROTC. That was awesome, and it's just fun to see a program come together and super impressive. It's only been a few weeks, and that was pretty amazing. Color Guard. So that was awesome, and also the Swiftwater ribbon cutting, which has been talked about, but I just wanted to mention how proud I was of the name that was chosen, Swiftwater, and just that the members of the Puyallup tribe were there, and that it just provides an opportunity to raise awareness of the original inhabitants and a lot of areas for learning, and so it was great to have them there as our guests and to have the community there as well. And I especially loved also because we always, just appreciate so much the voters who made these beautiful schools that we're talking about possible, and the whole community, as Preston says, we're all in this together. And so I loved that we were able to do community tours that night. And so for those of you who are here and got to take a tour, you know how fun it was to just see that the kids were proud to be showing off their building, and the staff here showing it off as well. So that was fun. The recognition as a board of distinction, I just wanted to mention, it's not about recognition. One thing I really enjoyed about that, though, is it's nice to get, it's nice to just get noticed, I guess, or recognition for the work we do behind the scenes, because really all of the work we do is behind the scenes. We come here to this boardroom, every 2 weeks, and we sometimes take a vote and we listen to public comment, which is important, and we report on what we've been doing since the last. But all of the work that really goes on, and all that we are required to do, goes on behind the scenes. So it was cool to just know that we fulfilled what we were supposed to be doing. We did it well. We met the standards, and so that was great. And then I don't want to leave. I think that's. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was I have been, we're all, as part of that, what I just mentioned, all the board members sit on several different committees where we go to meetings and try and further the work of several different things that go on in the district. And I have had the opportunity to be on the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee as the board representative for the last more than a year, maybe 15 months, something like that. And it's been, via Zoom, a lot of those meetings, but we've had many great discussions and talks, and then with the arrival of Superintendent Barr, gave us an opportunity to talk about what we really want to do, the opportunity to really further this great and important work, and how we can make just important changes so that every single student, as I say this a lot, but every single student, no matter what their situation, is treated, fairly and belongs and feels like they just can thrive and has the very best educational opportunity available to them, and that is just so important to all of us. So it's been really exciting the last month or two. Myself and David and Preston, and we've had an opportunity to meet with some members of the Puget Sound Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team. So that's like the greater region of school districts, school boards, to just talk about this very important work and how we can go forward in really doing even more, and how these meetings and this committee can be more just if you how we can advance this important work, and because it is super important to all of us. And so I just wanted to mention that we're just at the beginning stages of really trying to we're going to meet again in a few weeks with several other members of the community to just make a plan, and we're excited to carry on and with this important work because it is at the forefront of what we do. Every one of us, believes that every child, no matter what their situation, deserves the very best. So that is exciting, and I look forward to our next meeting. And that's all I got.
Natalie? Oh, sorry, catch you off guard.
I know, you did. I was just thinking about what Lori said. Thank you. Okay, I've got notes too on where I want to start, but I do want to thank all of you for coming again. I know it has been asked, are we listening? And yes, of course we are listening. This month has been particularly challenging, and I've had the opportunity to bump into people around town. I've had students reach out to me. I've had parents reach out to me. I've had teachers this month. For me in particular, I've had a lot of wonderful conversations. And so I have been on the other side of this board table where I feel like things aren't happening the way that I want them to. So know that I understand that, and I feel the frustration and the delay, particularly when it comes to the COVID stuff. It's been a really long time. Lori kind of alluded to the fact that most of what we do happens away from this room, and we are working and we're listening. One story time now, I almost always talk about my kids, but I have one who went away to college. So first one out of the nest. He's just up at the UW. He's in a room with 7 other boys, so it's a group of 8 kids. 4 of them are international students, and then 4 of them are U.S. students. And so he was introducing one of his international roommates out and around the campus, and he bumped into a friend of his from Gig Harbor High School who had graduated a year before he did. And this particular student was a friend of his. She was a stroke victim early on in her life and is now essentially paralyzed. And so she gets around in a wheelchair and is completely independent, completely mobile, and she's studying at the UW along with everyone else. Well, my son introduced his roommate, who was somewhat in awe and very quiet and taken aback. And when they parted ways, his roommate said, "Who would leave her here?" And my son was just he didn't understand the question. Who would leave her here? Why is she here? And my son had to walk back and explain, well, she applied and she got in. She's studying linguistics and she's completely independent. And he was explaining, in his country, if you are not on a path to be successful, whatever your disability is, you don't get opportunities like this. And I'm so proud, first of all, of the inclusion that our district provided for that student to reach that potential, number one. And number two, I'm going to do a little parent brag. Also proud of my son for not recognizing that this was anything that would limit her in any way. Actually, it made her more of a champion for doing it. So that's an example of inclusion when we're talking about that young lady is living her best life and enjoying time at university, thanks to what we've provided here. So to this team that I know has been a part of that, thank you. I will just briefly touch on that JROTC pin ceremony. That was amazing. So these kids that you saw tonight got in their uniform for the first time 2 weeks ago, I think. So for them to have not been in that before or done a flag ceremony, for them to have made this much stride in such a short amount of time is really a testament to the amazing instructor that we've selected, Lieutenant Commander Hood. So thank you to that, and to all the parents who came. It was really wonderful to see every student had a parent pinning them, so that was fun to meet those families. I'm going to make a plea because I know that we have some former teachers in this room. So if you find yourself with time on your hands, know that we are really in need of some substitutes for teachers, paraeducators, bus drivers. If you would be willing to consider giving time in that way, I know that the district would really be appreciative of that. It'll just kind of help get us through this emergency year. And it will allow you time to get back in the classroom with those kids, because I know some of you missed that. So I will just sign off with that and wish everyone a happy Halloween, and hope to see all the kids out there trick-or-treating this year and gorging themselves on candy and having somewhat of a normal holiday.
Thank you, Natalie. Deb?
So the Pioneer Lighthouse Award celebration that several of us were at, just a really quick little story there. It was amazing to see the kids working, but the little kindergartner, she kept saying technically to me. Anytime I'd ask her a question, she's like, well, technically. So it was pretty darn cute. And I asked the mom, I'm like, is that a new word for her? She's like, oh yeah, since she came here. Technically. Well, technically. David and I will be attending General Assembly tomorrow, and what that is it's our WASDA organization, and it is discussing the legislative issues that we take to our legislators down in Olympia. So really important discussions that we're having with all of our school directors across the state. So that is happening Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Friday and Saturday. And one thing I wanted to mention about the Board of Distinction, well, obviously it's an honor. It feels very good, but I've always thought about it over the years, and I really understood it much clearer and what it takes to get that award. In order for us to meet those standards, it took the willingness, the expertise, and flat out just extra time that every district employee, every principal, our tech department, our transportation, our teachers, our parents, our kids, we all had to work together to get that in order to meet those standards. So, well, yes, it is a shout out for our board. We couldn't meet those standards without us working together. So I appreciate everybody. A special shout out to assistant principals. I know they worked around the clock to figure out counselors schedules for our kids to make it as much of a normal year as possible. But yeah, we met those standards because of all of you and all of you. So thank you all. Yeah.
Joe.
I just want to shout out about the AVID study session. Oh my, that was amazing to learn what so much of our staff does over and above what they have to. It's amazing. That was a great program. I learned a lot. I got to mimic also the Swiftwater ribbon cutting was great. Working with the Puyallup tribe, I was very honored. Anna Beam, who is with the Puyallup tribe, also lives in our community and was proud that her kids were going to our schools. She did a shout out to us and was very happy with the progress that we've made in our schools. And so, other than she might like to come over here to this school, she's not here. I also want to thank, and I don't know the names of the youth that helped us at the farm tour. Out on the Key Peninsula, we had the farm tour a few weekends ago. It was the first weekend of October. And there were some students from Peninsula High School and KPMS who came over and helped with a lot of things that we were doing at the park. And it was just an awesome time to work with them. They didn't have a clue who I was. So when I was asking them things about the school and how they were doing and what they wanted to see improved, and they were just candid with me, and so it was great. I also want to say that I am listening very much. I am shocked at the situation that we're in. How it's being politicized. And here in the district, we're 22 months into this situation, and we should have legislated guidelines that are clear and simple. It's not a pandemic, it's an endemic now. And so there should be some simple guidelines as things go up, as things go down. We get a new variant. We shouldn't be changing course weekly. We should have something that lays it out that says, this is what's going to happen. So we have some expectations, so our staff has expectations. And I see some of that in the letter that's being written. And so I think we're going the right course. And the big one that I've got to mention here in public is acquired immunity is being ignored, which it makes it very clear that it's being politicized when they're ignoring science. So, I'll be quiet. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. Okay, so just gonna sort of piggyback off what Natalie said. I think a lot of people in the community do believe that the school board meets once or twice a month up here on the days, and we talk for a couple hours, and then we go home and don't do anything in between the meetings, and that's it. And I can assure you that that's just not true. Over the last 18 months that we've been together dealing with the pandemic, and the countless conversations that we had last year with our former superintendent and with each other and members of the school and the staff, and sleepless nights. I know, I'm not going to talk for the whole board, but I talked to all the board, and I know that we lost many, many nights of sleep as we dealt with the pandemic, and it was definitely a challenging time for us. And so I agree with what all the board members said about the Board of Distinction. It was challenging for everyone, the whole school district. It was a collective, just like if you're a commanding officer in a military base, you get the big medal for your base doing great or whatever, but it was a collective effort. Everyone worked together to make that award possible. So I agree with what the other board members said. Pioneer STEM Lighthouse, again, I had the opportunity to go to that, and it was amazing. I know Deb was there. Were you there? And Natalie was there. And to see it would have been so cool when I was a kid to have the stuff they have in that building. It's they're so energized, and you sit down, and I watched the three of us and Creston leaning in and talking to those students as they explained what they were doing, and they were just engrossed in it. And they were just, the parent was sitting in the back because they had to stay late with their kid because their kid was presenting. And you could just, their parents were beaming, and they just were so excited. And I do know that is a magnet school. You have to go get in a lottery to go to it. But I do know that the board and the school district and others have been working on trying to make sure that we expand those programs in the other elementary schools, and especially out on the Key Peninsula. It is unfortunate to have such an awesome school like Pioneer, and people that are so far away don't put their name in the hat, because it's a long bus drive or a drive to get there. And I just want to make sure that we give more opportunity for more kids to experience that. It was really, really magical what we got to see. Next, the strategic plan retreat a couple weeks ago. The board spent, 3 or 4 hours. It was our third retreat to discuss our strategic plan. I have to say, being on the board for 8 years, this board has been extremely cohesive, working together with Superintendent Barr. It's just been a pleasure to work on the strategic plan, and someone puts a word up on the board, and it's just like the lights go on, and there's all this cool conversation, and it just sort of, the board becomes alive. It doesn't matter if I'm writing or Natalie or Deb. It's just cool to watch the whole process. And so I'm really excited to see the strategic plan come together there will be stakeholder involvement with teachers, staff, community. So it's not just the board and Superintendent Barr. It will be all voices part of that. Swiftwater ribbon cutting, super cool, really windy. A lot of balloons are popping. It's almost like they were timed that way to just add extra emphasis to how cool it was to do the ribbon cutting. then we got a tour of the school. Most of us have been in there before, but to see kids in there and to see parents in there and answering questions and just seeing how proud those kids and teachers were in Swiftwater was just a delight for everyone to be in there. And then to see 70 or 75 residents from Heron's Key walking through here, those folks have a unique opportunity to volunteer in our school district, whether it's with AVID, to be adult mentors with AVID, be a trusted life, adult people in their lives, or read to a kid. I really hope that Heron's Key, after that, will become more engaged in our school district, especially with this school. I have a few things on my list tonight. Last night we had I had a emergency resolutions committee meeting with WASDA. We had a couple of new emergency resolutions that we need to put in ahead of our conference. And as Deb said, tomorrow she and I will be attending the annual joint resolution legislative conference for tomorrow and Saturday. It's really important, and I look forward to working with Deb on that tomorrow. Get that one done. One of the things that prior to the pandemic and prior to a lot of the stuff that's gone on in the last 2 years, in the past, the board used to go out into the community. So we might go out and have a board meeting here, and at the next board meeting we might be at KPMS, and the next board meeting might be at Harbor Ridge, and we moved our board meetings out into the community, because not everyone from the KPMS is going to drive all the way over here for a meeting or wherever they might be. And so we are getting back to that. Our study session 2 weeks ago was at Harbor Ridge Middle School, and we want to get back out in the community and having meetings out there to be more accessible to members of the community that can't get here and have an opportunity to meet and talk to the board. So I think that's really neat. As she said, the study session, we haven't had one like that before, where we got to get up and move around and interact with each table. I felt that was so much more engaging to do that. And members of the community are welcome to attend study sessions. So if they're there, if there would have been more members of the community, they could have gone around the various tables with individual board members and learned what we were learning. So that's another unique thing that we look forward to. So another thing that I'm really excited that we're getting back to. What is I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
It's on the board.
It's on the board, on the website. So thank you for asking, though. And again, as a veteran, as a veteran, to see the JROTC in here with the flag, way cool, way cool. I'm just really happy that they're here. Big baby. And then lastly, I guess, we talked about it a little bit tonight. Crescent touched a bit about it. I'm really, God, I tell you when my voice breaks. I'm really, really proud of this board, Superintendent Barr, everyone in the room, the community. It's been tough. It's been a tough year, and y'all come here, y'all are passionate, and you may not like some of the things we're doing, and we may not like some of the things you're doing, but you come and you've been respectful. You might be on a different side of an issue, pro or anti-mask, pro or anti-vaccine, whatever it may be. I know I appreciate the fact that you come here, you share your voice, we want to hear your voice, and you're respectful. And except for a little issue earlier this evening where a gentleman wanted to make a statement, this board has been welcoming. Community members have been respectful and have been thoughtful at the podium and stay after and meet with us if they need to clarify things. But I just want to say that I really appreciate the way you handle yourself at our board meetings. And so with that, if anybody else doesn't have anything else, I'll adjourn the meeting at 7:37.